Hello and welcome back to another Kenn7 podcast. And it's been a while, but joining me on the line is Sir Kenny and Paul Dalglish for a chat about all things Liverpool, talking through pre-season, the Norwich game, the Burnley game, and a few little things I've got lined up. But so without further ado, boys, how are you getting on?
Very well, Gavin. Thank you.
By the way, it does look very sunny in Spain.
No.
Oh, the light's not working?
No. Power cut.
Oh, right.
Listen, let's get into it. Kenny, I don't want to do too much on the Norwich game because it's gone, but what were your thoughts about Liverpool's performance in the Norwich game?
I think they were very comfortable in the game. And it's always nice to start the season with no goals against you. They got 3 games. Harvey Elliott got a wee run out towards the end of the game. And that will not do any harm. He did fantastically well at Blackburn last year. And I think if they're looking to, or somebody within the squad that doesn't play as often as he would like to play, is looking to move on, then he's having a wee look at likes of Harvey Elliott and some of the others to see if they could fill the boots that the guys are going to leave. So I think all in all it was a successful day.
Of course, and off the back of we had a fairly successful pre-season, some decent results, some good performances, everyone back fit. What did you think, Paul? Did you see the team that he selected? What did you think about the team that he selected on the day?
Yeah, it's I guess in pre-season, the first kind of few games, especially after the international tournaments, you never really know what the first team of the season is going to look like, because you never really know who's ready to start the season until you get them back from the international break. So when you see the team, you just kind of presume that there's certain players that aren't quite ready and certain players that have done well in pre-season and earned the spot. But I think probably take 3 or 4 weeks before we see what Jurgen thinks is his strongest line.
Can he just?
I think the best thing about the pre-season was getting Joe Gomez and Virgil back and giving Jordan a bit of time to get himself ready as well. And I think he went easy on the ones who were in the international tournament, the Euros or the American, the Brazilians, and who got to the final. But I think it was. I think that the way it worked out is perfect for him. Having a game on Saturday and then a whole week off, it gives the others who weren't involved as much pre-season an opportunity to get themselves up to speed. Now it's down to Jurgen to decide who he thinks is the furthest forward and who he thinks is best choices. But they'll all be playing the part. I mean, Thiago's back. That's the first time I've seen him. That's the first time I've seen his name mentioned, was this week. I don't know if he's been injured or whatever, but if he's coming back into the game, I mean, the size of him, normally the people of that size, the smaller guys, are the ones who get fitter quicker than the big guys. So the wee fella might have a role to play against Burnley.
Do you know the other thing you're talking about, seeing Virgil back and seeing Virgil back and seeing Joe Gomez? But I think the other key thing from pre-season as well was the amount of players we seem to re-sign to new deals, because sometimes you're clambering for players to come in from the outside and spend money, but it costs money to re-sign players as well. So the job that Liverpool have done in keeping the team together, when there's no doubt opportunities for them to go probably somewhere else and earn more money in the current climate, I thought that was a huge part of the pre-season as well.
I think it's difficult when you look at the squad that's there. If you were on the outside looking in and Liverpool approached you to come and play for them, would you be secure? I mean, I know you've got to have belief in yourself, but would you be secure in your own mind that you're going to get a game?
Well, it depends who you are, right? But there's not too many that could get into Liverpool's team.
That's what I'm saying.
There's not too many, no. But it's you look round and you go, okay, well, who would you take? Even the top ones. Look, and I'm not saying we we would have got him. But even like, you know, Messi becomes available, you know, and Messi, in my opinion, the best player that's walked the planet. That's my opinion. I'm not getting into an argument now about who's the best ever. It's just my opinion. It's my favourite. But I was even looking at this stage of his career. As good as he is, the best player that's ever walked the planet. Does he fit in at Liverpool? You know, and you can go through a lot of the players that have moved, and you think, you know, it's because it's not only are they good enough, it's do they do the defensive work? Are they the right profile to fit into the team? Because what we've also seen at Liverpool is the adaptation time that it takes some players to adapt to the high intensity running and the style of play. We've seen players take time to adapt. So it might even be, you might even get a surprise with the likes of Minamino this year. You know, the ones that have been here a while, and even the Thiagos, the ones that have been a season and then coming into the second season. Naby Keita's been a few years. He's never really broke out. So it might be, you know, rather than players from the outside coming in, and the highlight of the pre-season might be the advancement of the players on the inside adapting.
I think that's perfectly feasible, Paul, and it's better to have somebody that's been there a year ago than coming in now, because the new one that come in, Kouati, he's maybe take a little bit of time to settle down and get used to the ethos that Jurgen has, because it'll be different to the one he had at Leipzig.
Yeah.
So it's better, and you've got Joe Gomez, you've got Virgil back, you've got Matip. Hopefully he's going to have a good run. He's had a few fitness problems in the past as well. So, but they're already been there. They've settled in. They know what's asked. They know what's been asked of them, and Jurgen knows what to expect of them. And the other lad, Kouati, might take a wee while to settle in. But I think we're well covered everywhere now.
Yeah,
I think we're well covered.
There's not. I don't think there's a desperate need. I don't see a real glaring weakness in the team. Do you?
No, and the thing is good for Jurgen as well. You see some of the younger boys. I mean, like Curtis Jones was in last year and got through. Harvey Elliott's come back for a great spell at Blackburn Rovers. He'll be in the frame somewhere or in and around the bench. And Jurgen's got to make his mind up. If somebody comes in to buy maybe some of the players that are on the fringe, that maybe look to be moving on somewhere to get some more games, is he going to be confident enough to put the youngsters in? I think he's sizing them up at the moment, and he can make that decision if he's asked. So he's preparing himself for them and the need that they have to go, or they want to go, and he has to, and he's got an option to sell them or keep them.
Yeah.
I've got an agenda, and you are literally going through the agenda without me asking you the questions. So
well, I have a question for you.
Oh, go on.
What's your medal for?
It's the Premier League. It's the Premier League medal, winners medal. Oh. Mrs. bought me it. Ivy actually bought me it. It was like a present. So,
so when you can't win shit yourself, you buy winners medals of other people that have won stuff. Is that the way it works, Gav? I know. Is that like the participation trophy? Because you enter the match, you get a medal. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, that's exactly.
What was the last thing you what was the last medal you won, Gav?
I can't remember.
The same time as Paul.
I can't remember, mate. Let's move on anyway. Kenny, Mo Salah, 98 goals in 159 Premier League games. Where do you think that he should be placed among the Premier League elite, the likes of Henry and Shearer and the guys who've all broke those records?
Well, he's getting up there, isn't he? Nobody can be anything other than totally complimentary about the service that Mo's given to the football club and the result of the goals that he scored, and obviously the assists that he makes as well. And he's a fantastic outlet for us. I mean, he's up there, he's up against them, and he's a wiry wee guy as well. He's not as if you can easily push him off. If he sees an opportunity to get in and go, he's going to attack you. And obviously with Alisson, he's done it before and he'll do it again. when we're under the caution, most days up there himself, and it falls to Allison's feet, and he pings one of those long balls up and over. The defenders don't know where to go, and the passing, the long balls, like Virgil getting back in there, he'll be hitting that one for centre back position in the left side over the fullback's head, and the fullbacks are that terrified that they come off more, and they actually give him the space, and they give Virgil the space to drop it in, and invariably they get to his feet. So once it gets to his feet up on that other end of the pitch, they've got a job on to keep him away. But he's been a fantastic servant, and he deserves the rewards that he's getting through the number of goals and assists.
This is a massive shout. I think he might be one of, if not the most underappreciated players in world football. I really do. I think when you look at his actual output, when you hear pundits talk about him and you hear, different fans or whatever, that he's not mentioned in the same breath as players that may be a little bit more pleasing on the eye. But if you look at purely the amount of goals that he scores, I think he's genuinely the most underappreciated player in the world. Because if you look, because sometimes he gives the ball away if he's combining between the lines, or sometimes a finish might not be. It might look a little bit unorthodox. People, even when you hear people in the media talking about him, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. I don't think, and I think that. When I use him as an example, because I think it's all to do with his movement, what he does without the ball. I think he is absolutely. If you look at a Messi and Neymar, it's everything they do, or not everything. It's a lot more obvious because a lot of what they do is on the ball, although the movement's really, really good. But Salah, for me, is all about his movement. His movement is incredible. His ability to get in behind, and as my dad was saying, if teams drop off. Because they're scared of him running behind, and that's where Firmino or Jota can get between the lines and get the space that he's created. So he's, I think for him, because Mane does it, but he started to come a little bit more between the lines. But as my dad said, Mo gives us that outlet, and his movement without the ball is top level.
I mean, you said underappreciated there. I almost think we take him for granted. I think he just keeps.
No, but if you think, mate, it's not like Suarez. If you think about, I don't think it's even that we take him for granted. It's like Suarez. You think about it, right? You think about it with Liverpool fans. Suarez was absolutely idolised, right? Idolised. Torres, absolutely idolised. In this team, it's more Van Dijk that's idolised, and Van Dijk is a world-class player. But am I right in saying that Salah scored more goals than Torres, more goals than Suarez in the better strike rate, but isn't really as revered?
I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying completely.
Yeah, but I think that's a plus in itself. He doesn't need to, or doesn't have to be told how good he is. Everybody knows it. And there's only so many times you can say it. If you're a pundit on television, there's only so many things you can say, and so many times you can say it. They run out of words. They run out of words. He won't run out of goals. And if you're Chelsea, who have just spent $100 million on Lukaku coming back to them, what would they spend on if they were ever to go for Salah? What would they spend on De Bruyne? How many players have they had that have moved on for Chelsea to other places and then come back in to the Premier League and almost haunted them?
Yeah.
Their recruitment can't be. Their recruitment must be pretty useful, Paul, because they've picked up 3 or 4 beauties, and all right, they never kicked on for them, or maybe the manager didn't take to them, or whatever. Hazard moved on; that was his choice. But the ones that have come and gone into other Premier League clubs and haunted them, they must on one hand say, well, at least we've got a great scouting system, but why did it not happen? Why did they not do it for us?
Yeah, well, it was blocked, wasn't it? The pathway to the team was blocked, really, by experienced players. Because if you look at when they came in, and you look who was playing in the team and their positions at that time, then it was a difficult. Chelsea were a difficult team to get in at that time, and I think young players are desperate for minutes, and it's probably a little bit of a combination of a couple of things. But just going back to Mo Salah, you're talking about how much would they come in for him? I mean, probably a more fitting question would be like, how much does he demand in wages at Liverpool?
Oh.
Where does he fit in? Where does he fit in at Liverpool? What's his value? What's the value of the amount of goals he scored in terms of wages? Because it is. But there's very few teams in the world that can pay Messi's wages. There's very few teams in the world, Neymar, all these guys. Liverpool aren't the top spenders when it comes to wages. And is there a point where his output puts him, out of Liverpool's price range in terms of wages? Because he's that elite in terms of his goal scoring.
But he's under contract anyway for 2 or 3 years, and there's not even any hint that he's going to be going anywhere. Yeah. There's no indication that Liverpool, as maybe some people would have thought, maybe have sold a couple to try and get some money in to get somebody else, to come in and strengthen up the squad. But it won't be one of the ones, Paul. It won't be one of the top ones. They've done great business. They've signed them. Yeah. They've signed them on contracts before they were due to finish, and they're all happy to sign because, as well as being making fantastic contributions to the club, they also enjoy the club.
Yeah, so it's a good place to be in. I mean, it's a dream. I mean, if you're a player and you can play for Jurgen Klopp and in front of Liverpool fans every week, I mean, it's your dream, isn't it? Really, when things are going well, it's. Even last year, when it wasn't for spells, it wasn't great for a while. It was there was the manager was still still revered. The fan base still, even though there's not fans in the stadium, there was just a real positivity around Liverpool. The fan base most of the time saying, "Look, we've got no centre backs. It's fine. We'll be back." We'll be back, and there was a calmness and a complete trust in the manager. Nobody was ever questioning him, and that must just be an amazing environment to be part of, because it's so distracting when you've got the outside influences. People are doubting certain parts. So you're right. I mean, it's why would you want to be anywhere else at this moment in time?
It's quite key.
And the people in the outside passing comment.
Yeah.
The reason why most of them are passing comment is because you can't get a job in football.
Yeah.
So the people in the football
that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this.
but the people in management, Paul, the people in management are the ones that are getting stick from the people who have already been in it, and some have done not too well in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but one thing about the Liverpool support is they're appreciative and they're loyal, and as long as they see the loyalty coming back and the effort and the commitment getting out on the pitch, they'll be right beside you. And that's what happened last year.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the highlight of the last season for me, was Alisson Becker's header at West Brom.
Oh, amazing.
I mean, you think everything that they've been through, and for me, I'd rather look at the positivity. Alisson Becker scoring with a header.
That was amazing. It's a bit like yours against Wales at Anfield. Remember that one?
Yeah, but mine flew in.
Listen, we play Burnley tomorrow. What are your thoughts?
The Ginger Mourinho.
Is that what he's called?
I think so, yeah.
I sound like him at the moment.
Yeah.
Someone commented the other day. But
you've got a beard as well. You know what I mean? He's got a bit of a beard. And listen, you are actually ginger and you dye your beard as well. So we could call you.
Yeah. At least I've got a choice though, lad.
So you could be the ginger Mourinho as well. You know what I mean? Who do you want to be? The ginger who?
To be honest with you, anything that covers half my face is probably a good ideal. Do you know what I mean? Burnley tomorrow, Kenny. What sort of game do you think that's going to be?
That'll be a difficult game. Sean Dyche, over the years, has done a great job there. They thought they were going to be in a wee bit trouble last year, but they got themselves out of it quite easily in the end. So you know what you're going to be up against. You know they're going to be totally committed and won't be too adventurous. It'll be a difficult game for us. And these types of games are always, I think, a wee bit more difficult at the start of the season because the players are all fit. They've just got back. They've not had midweek games. They're all fit and willing to chase and harry. And as long as they don't lose a goal, then they're quite comfortable in playing that way. So, no, it'll be a difficult game, but it's the first game back at a competitive game back at Anfield where the punters are going to be in. And I bet he's in good voice. So that'll help us a great deal as well.
Are you gutted you're missing it?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, if you're as bad as if you were a travel agent, or if I was a travel agent, there'd be an awful lot of people didn't get the correct flights and the correct dates. So for me, I've only got myself to blame, Gav.
Oh,
why? You can't get a tan.
Is that what
you can't get a tan in Southport, can you?
You can, aye.
Look at that. I don't know where the t-shirt starts and your face ends.
Why, that's red.
So what I wanted to do, boys, I mean, I've not spoke to you for ages. Paul, you're obviously managing. Kenny, you both played. I just wanted to have a little chat about pre-season and get some facts about pre-season. So, Paul, how's pre-season changed for your players compared to when you were a player?
I think it's a debate in football, isn't it? At this moment in time, there's really varying opinions. So when my dad played and when I played, you basically you'd go away on holiday and there'd be players that would come back in 15, 20 pounds overweight, coming back in just from enjoying the summer holidays. And it would be, players would use pre-season to get fit. I think now players keep themselves in shape in the off season as well. And with international games now and all the players playing, they really don't get very much time off. So it's very difficult to get out of shape. But pre-season used to be in a lot of clubs, and it still is at Liverpool, where it would be brutal. 2 sessions a day. Liverpool sometimes do 3 sessions a day now. And it's about building, that theory is about building your fitness, the base of your fitness, to stand you in good stead for the season. The counter argument to that at this moment in time is, the logic tells you that you shouldn't train players as hard in the first couple of weeks of the season, of pre-season, when they're at the least fit. And the theory is that if you do that, then you are going to get injuries later on in the season, because injuries are normally an accumulation of fatigue. So there is a thought process at this moment in time that you should start slow and then gradually build up and build up and build up and build up. And that the theory is that prevents injury. So I work on the second option, which is to do it gradually. But there's teams that are a lot more successful than the level I'm working at that do it the way that Liverpool do it as well. So it's just, if it works, you're right.
Kenny, what was pre-season like for you as a player? I mean, what were the type of things that you did?
Well, apart from the obvious running, there was also a lot of time spent with the ball, although you were running after it, trying to get it back or trying to play with it. But the big change for when we were training, we came in, we would start on a Thursday. So we do morning and afternoon, Friday morning, afternoon, Saturday morning, and then come in the Monday, and they would step it up for the first couple of days. So it's not unusual to hear something that they did years ago at Liverpool that's coming into vogue now. We're saying that you start slightly easier and then build it up. And we used to go through that week, and on the Wednesday of that week, they used to have a thing called the big picture, which was the A team pitch and the B team pitch. One ran long ways, one went up and down, and that was a running track right around there, and it was all set out in cones and everything. And you just did, like, you ran 2 laps 3 times, and then you walked a marker to get the next run going. And some of the boys just never stopped running. They just ran in. They started off. The group had finished, but they were still running. And by the time they got to your group, they were starting again to go in the second double header. So it was all done. It was all really, really well thought out for us. So that was a Wednesday, and then you'd have a match. Your first real match amongst each other would be in the following Saturday morning. And then we get Saturday afternoon off. And the boys would go to the pub probably. But they get Saturday afternoon off. But the big difference was we used to play games, opposition games. We never played like that's interesting this year, the number of half-hour games there was. Like two different 11s. I think, well, look, there's a lot more people involved. And if there's a lot more people there, that makes common sense that they've all got to get a game, haven't they? Yeah, so playing the half-hour might be all right. I don't know. But we used to play 90-minute matches.
I think it makes sense because you know what you want to try and do is build up your minutes gradually. So if you can do 30 minutes, then 45, then 60, 75, 90, then that's a gradual progression. And if somebody can get through 30, then build them up to 45, 45s. So what it'll be just the ability to get everybody the right amount of minutes that are needed. And what we would do, Dad, when you'd have a Liverpool team that would play, or Celtic, Newcastle, whoever, and then you'd have they used to call it a Liverpool 11, right? Which is like the second team that would go and play somewhere. So say you had a squad of 25 players, the first 11 would go and play in one game, and on the same day, the kind of bottom half would go and play someone else, like an 11, they were called. So they've always kind of manipulated the schedule to try and get everybody minutes, but there's so many people involved in football now that want an opinion. Well,
there was a game there. Osasuna played Southampton one day and played. Oh no, it was Athletic Bilbao played Southampton one day and Liverpool the next.
Mm-hmm.
So they 20 odd players, and the ones that started on the Saturday didn't start the next day.
Yeah.
So there's different variations. I think the most important thing is you get as many people as fit as you possibly can as quickly as you possibly can,
without getting them injured.
Yeah,
because you're always fighting that fine line, aren't you, between getting somebody fit and somebody breaking down, because most injuries. So basically, if you overtrain somebody in pre-season, that injury might not come out. It might not reach breaking point until midway in the season. But the fatigue has been accumulated normally. Most injuries are an accumulation of fatigue that build up over a gradual period of time.
When you were talking earlier about people going back 10 and 15 pounds overweight.
I was going to ask you about this. Did you know anyone who did that?
Apart from myself.
I can't imagine that.
We used to come back, and they used to get, the polythene bag you get for your cleaning.
The bin bag. The bin bag.
Well, you could use a bin bag, but the polythene, the see-through thing you get with your shirts and the cleaners. Yeah. Used to wear them for training, pre-season. But it didn't make any difference. By the time you went home, you drank that much, no alcohol, but you drank that much, you probably put it back on again.
Yeah.
So I came back in one year and I thought, I'm going to make a real effort here. And I got myself down to 10 stone 12. And honestly, God, I couldn't have burst a paper bag. I went, I'm not into this. I'm not supposed to be this way. I better start eating. So I went against it. I don't think it matters what you weigh. I think it matters in your mind how you feel.
Right.
Well, that's it. To be fair, you can be. I think the psychology of it is huge. You know, if you feel fit and you think you're fit, then that's half the battle.
There was that thing about Robbie.
But do you know the other thing, Dad? Do you know the other thing? You like food, so you're probably miserable.
What do you mean?
Rabbit food. You're probably miserable if you're eating rabbit food and not eat if you couldn't have your steak pie and peas.
No, you couldn't do that. But I tried it. So it didn't work for me. So that at least I tried it.
There's that thing that Robbie Fowler always felt more comfortable at a certain weight, which was a bit heavier than what was recommended because he felt like he could shield the ball better with a bit more bulk. I don't know whether you'd seen that. I remember reading that he'd said that.
Gaza was the same, right? Gaza was the same. You know, he used to go through phases and you know, I always thought he looked best when he was just a little bit more natural. But then you get other guys that they look heavy and they're nowhere near the players that they are when they're in shape, you know. So I think everybody's different and everybody, you know, the mind controls the body. So if you look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah.
Paul, is the mental side there, right, for the weight, do you think the sports scientists take that into consideration now? Or do they just go, you're 5'10", you should weigh this, and we're going to get you down to that? Surely they've got to listen to what the player feels.
Well, it's more about percentages, right? So if it's about getting down to your body fat needs to be at a certain percentage, and rather than a certain weight, you know. And what we'll do now is we weigh players before training and after training, not to see how much they weigh, but to see how much fluid they lose in training. Because obviously we're in a warm environment, so the players weigh themselves before they go out for training and weigh themselves when they come back in, so they know how much fluid they have to put back in the bodies before they train the next day. And then obviously when they come back to training the next day, they can weigh themselves and see if they've put that fluid back on. So it's is that measurement you want before they start? What happens if that drops or goes up overnight? Well, if it goes up, you're not really concerned too much. But if it goes down, then and it's been a hard session the day before, then you look at that and say, well, maybe they've not rehydrated, because that's when if you're not hydrated, then that's when that can affect performance, especially in the environments that we play in over here with the heat.
I would have thought individuals have got to be taken into consideration, as well as the rule of thumb that they have. That if you're 5'10", you weigh 12 stone, you're okay.
So listen, I was having this conversation yesterday with one of the and we're looking at something as simple as the simple answer is not really. But we were even looking at distance covered, and we're looking at certain players that are covering more distance than other players. And we actually had the conversation. This is the bit that annoys sports scientists, because you might be running more distance because you're positionally poor. Or you might be running less distance because you're in the right position all the time. So when you've always got to have context in everything you do. You know, I think, as I said, the every single aspect needs to be considered, not just the one perspective. And I think that's one of the problems that we have in football now. There's so many people involved. There's so many people that want an opinion. But you've got to, the Liverpool mantra used to be one voice as a coaching staff. You might disagree behind the door, but you need to have one voice going forward. And with so many different opinions and so many people with strong opinions, it's really, really difficult to have one voice. And as a head coach, what you've got to do is you've got to take all those bits of information and then make the right decision based on all the factors we're talking about. But then obviously if the sports scientist isn't getting what he wants, or the, you know, whoever, the physiotherapist isn't getting what he wants, then, you know, there is a bit of balance that they need to give as well. They need to understand that, look, ultimately the most important thing is the team performing on a Saturday. So you're going to have to give a little bit at times, and everyone's going to have to give a little bit.
I mean, I think also they've got to have a bit of street sense, right? Because when we used to train and they put markers out for us to run, they always put the markers an extra few yards further than what they wanted you to run, because they knew you would cut the corner. They knew if it was a circle, well, they're not going to run outside it, are they? They're going to cut inside it. So they made it that wee bit longer, so they were actually getting exactly what they did. And for me, that was education. They had such an education in the footballing lives, and you knew how the players thought, because that's what they would have done when they were training. Now, there's not too many sports scientists, I don't think, have been in the position that the coaches at Liverpool were in, like Ronnie Moran and Joe Fagan, Roy Evans, Shanks, old Bob. They'd all been round the block. And sometimes it helps to have a wee bit of common sense and a wee bit of an education in what actually happens on a training pitch. You can't. If I was setting something up, I wouldn't think that they're going to run the full distance, and I would set the thing up to make sure that they ran the distance you want them to say, but at the same time, giving them a wee facility within that distance that they could cut a bit off it, but still do exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, and it probably goes on. The other piece of it, Dad, to your point, is Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans did the pre-season as players at Liverpool, because I remember even you tell me about things that you did in pre-season, and then when I went to Liverpool at 19, we were doing the same things. So we did, like, we used to call it the envelope, and there was an envelope one where you'd run like in a round the outside and then diagonals across the middle. Then you play 77 on the big pitch and then 77 on the little pitch. And there was a lot of the things that they'd done for years and years and years. So the other thing that you get is trial and error. So you do a session and you go, you kind of reflect on the session afterwards and go, okay, well, when we do this next time, they would cut the corners. So let's add a little bit more, or have another thing that they would do is they'd have a coach stand in the corner that they were cutting to make sure they had to run around the coach. Yeah. So it's just experience. It's just experience that you get from doing it helps you make it better as time goes on. And having such a consistent staff at Liverpool over a long period of time allows you to fine tune those details. But if you're doing a session for the first time, you don't know how the players are going to cheat. But players always find a way to take shortcuts or cheat. That's just the nature of the game.
Of course it is. But they kept a record of every single training session, whether what they did, who did it, anybody missed out. If there was an injury and there was a recurrence, 3 or 4 people getting the same injury, they'd have a look at the books and say, what have we done different this year to last year? And they were so educated themselves in those days, and people must have taken that on board in today's game. They must have. Yeah. Surely there's something there they keep a record of every training session that you do and what happens in it.
Yeah, everything's now recorded and downloaded automatically. Everyone wears the GPS units for training, so you know now they did it with their eye, which is still your eye is more important than the GPS. The GPS just backs up what your eye saw, because the GPS doesn't give you any context. It just gives you raw data. Whereas your eye can tell you that the guy might be ill, the guy might be ill. So him running, 100 meters at high intensity might have been harder for him than somebody else running 400 meters at high intensity. But unless you can actually see the player, you can't put context on the data. So the eye is always the most important thing.
They've got a great excuse now, haven't they? I don't feel very well. I've got COVID. Then they don't need to go, oh, my hammy's a bit tight, or something. They just go, oh, I don't feel well. I think I've got COVID.
Yeah.
That's
the last thing you want to say. Kenny, I just wanted to ask you about in pre-season, when you were a manager, and in particular young players, with reference to Harvey Elliott, you mentioned him before. Have you ever gone into a pre-season as a manager and a young player has really surprised you, where you've thought, Christ, he's actually an option now?
And I've got to be a wee bit loyal here. When I went to Newcastle, Paul trained the first pre-season, and he was flying. And we just signed the boy who played for France in the World Cup finals, Stefan Gavos. And we went to play a pre-season friendly match in Ireland. And after 12 minutes, he went over on his ankle. And Terry Mack was the assistant, Alan Irvin was with, and I said, oh, geez, who do we put on now? It's only 12 minutes. They went, put Paul on. I said, I can't put Paul on. He went, he's been flying in training. And I said, I know, but you can't put him on. It looks as if it's favouritism. They said, put him on. I went, all right. So he went on, he scored 2.
Yeah. It was funny because I was actually angry with him because you know yourself when you're flying. I was in a really good, kind of, and it goes back to the mind. I was in a really good place. You know what I mean? Confident, really good place. And then I kind of played against one of my heroes, Gaza, at Middlesbrough as well. After that, and I was actually really disappointed because the first game of the season, I wasn't in the squad. I've been involved with the first team all season, and then I wasn't involved at all in the first game. And then I was really happy because after 3 games, the manager got the sack. So then I got an opportunity later on.
The manager never lasted 3 games.
Was it 2?
1. Never. 1.
No, it was Charlton. I think, did you not play Charlton? Was it a draw against?
First game was at home. For Liverpool at home was a game. Oh no, Sheffield Wednesday. I did.
But I think Liverpool was the 3rd game because I was on the bench for that after you left. Because Alan Irvine and
Terry Mack,
and I think was it Tommy Burns? Was it Tommy Burns with the youth as well? So they put me in the 18. And I remember, so you can imagine, my dad's left me out. Then he's got the emotion of going through. My dad comes in to tell everyone he's been fired, and we're all sitting and going. And obviously for me as well, it was hard. You're looking. It was a hard moment, and then we'd start training, and Alan Irvine is saying, "Look, you're in the squad." And he said to me, "Look, we were going to start you, but we're going to start." We were thinking about starting. You're going to start Givash, but you're going to come on at half time because he can only last 45 minutes or whatever he can last. So I was on the bench against Liverpool, and it's like I was so excited that I was going to be coming on against Liverpool. And Ruud Gullit was at the game as he was going to be announced. He was going to take over the week after as the manager. And I think we were getting beat at half time, and he came down and made 3 substitutions at half time, and I wasn't one of them. And I never got the chance to go on. So, and then I was left out of the squad really for months and months and months.
You in though?
And I got back in. What?
You got back in, didn't you? Because I came to see
I got back in,
Old Trafford.
Yeah, got back in. Got back in.
One with Schmeichel.
Missed it, didn't I? Well, I hit the target. He saved it. Do you know what's funny though? I should have done a Davos Suka, when he chipped in. because I tell you, when it's quite hard to explain, and my dad can tell you, but going through one-on-one with certain goalkeepers, some of them leave a lot more goal open than others. And he was one where you go through one-on-one, you're looking at the goal, you're looking at him, and he's so big, you know, because his shoulders were massive as well, and there wasn't that much of the goal to look at, to be honest. Whereas other times you go through and you're like, it's a goal already, because the goalkeepers don't cover much of the goal, but he was massive when you went through. Which was a big one that you went through, Dad, on, and you looked and you went, that's... was there anyone that you went through on and you thought doesn't leave much of the goal?
Well, I think the ones that are more difficult to beat are the ones that stand up longest.
Yeah.
And I think you find Alisson at the moment, for me, it's as difficult to get one past him than it is anybody else, because he's athletic and he's big and he's a presence. And the number of times that people have gone through one-on-one against him and he saved it is numerous, by the way. Shelton used to be good at it. He used to stand up. So if they stand up, just aim for their feet, you've got a better chance.
He wasn't the biggest though, was he, Shelton?
No, but he was quite big.
Yeah.
Fella, yeah.
So going into the season, Kenny, what do you think about Liverpool's rivals, the business that they've done in the transfer window? Everyone's sort of writing us off. Who do you expect the strongest challenge to come from?
I think it will be the usual suspects. I think obviously Man City, Chelsea, Man United look strong. I don't know about Arsenal. They're still spending money, so what they're going to end up with, we'll just have to wait and see. I think also it'll be interesting to see how Rafa does at Everton. But I think it'll be the usual suspects up there at the top, and I think we'll be right in amongst it.
I mean, I agree. I think the business that Man United done seems very canny, and I'm interested to see how they get on. I think Varane is a great signing.
Canny, like canny means like canny is signing the likes of Diego Jota or Mo Salah that might not be. You're signing Jadon Sancho and Varane. You know, that's not canny. There's no kind of laptop geniuses digging those guys out of the woodwork. I mean, they're good signings, but it's not canny, is it? It's obvious signings, really. You know, whereas they needed a centre back, they went out and got Varane. You know, I'm much happier with, you know, the way Liverpool do things. You know, I would say that Bruno Fernandes, a lot of people were looking at him. Man United took the chance on him.
Well,
Man United took the chance on him, and he's been outstanding in terms of numbers. I don't think the business this summer has been canny, Gav. I think it's just been obvious. I think they got into, like, Jadon Sancho was one that they wanted to bring in, and it almost became a challenge to bring him in. Whereas Varane, I think, was what they needed to play alongside Harry Maguire.
Mm.
Also, did I say Chelsea? They'll be up there.
Yeah, Chelsea will be good. I think Chelsea will be good.
Yep.
Chelsea United.
He's done excellent since he's getting in there, the manager. He's done brilliant. Too.
Yeah. But, and I tell you, Dad, you know, that you can't write off Leicester. You know, Leicester keep doing well as well. You know, they keep ticking along. You know, they nobody really mentioned them last year, and they found a way to be in amongst it. You know, they beat. I know it's only the Charity Shield, but they beat City in the Charity Shield. You know.
But I think
it's going to be interesting to see if they stick with the pace.
What might favour them, and I've no looked as if what level of team they're playing against at the start of the season, and when they start getting into Champions League games, how that's going to, which strain that's going to put on the squad, and see how they can survive through that. So, I would have thought that they might be up there, but they won't be they won't be threatening the league.
No, I'm not saying they'll threaten the league, but they'll be.
They had a great start. They had a great start with winning beating City 1-0. But Paul, City were playing some of the kids in the Community Shield, and it wasn't the strongest team. And they started slowly last year as well. Just as well, it gave other people a chance. But losing at Tottenham, they weren't enthralling at Tottenham, were they?
No.
Lost 1-0. So I don't know. I think City will get themselves together and they'll be up challenging.
Let me ask you something.
The usual suspects.
Let me ask you something. They've signed Grealish for £100 million. City are already good. Does Grealish give them £100 million worth of value? Does he make them significantly better? I mean, how many points do you think signing Grealish will equate to? I mean, for me, it seems like he's
if they get to if they win the Champions League, it's justified.
I get that, yeah.
And forget the money. The money's only relevant if you can't afford it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's what he brings to the team, and if he brings more success, then yeah, it's been a success for them.
Do you think he was what they needed?
I don't know what they need. Guardiola's got a mind of his own, isn't he? That's why he's been so successful. So he's the one that will know what or if, and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, Paul. You don't know what people are trying to move out or people are disenchanted. So certainly, if you're going to buy people, as well as buying Grealish to strengthen your own squad, you're weakening Aston Villa, aren't you?
Mm. Yeah.
Or whoever else was going to sign him.
Yeah.
You know, because I know it used to be, if you sign a player from someone, it means one of your rivals can't. So that's there is a little bit of that motivation when you're signing players. But I look at Man City and I was going, I look at them and I'm thinking, if I was going to spend 100 million on that team, would I have gone after Grealish? And I might come back to look stupid. He might tear the Premier League up, but he's a good player. But I just look. You've got Mahrez, you've got Raheem Sterling, you've got Foden, you've got you can keep going up. You've got De Bruyne as well. That's kind of an attacking player that plays in it. Yeah, you've got. Well, it's more like the. I just look and I go, okay, what? Listen, it might only be one of a lot of signings. It sounds like they still want to go after Harry Kane. They might not get him, but just going to be interesting. I think their squad's lacking in a few positions, to be honest. If they want to be top Champions League winners, Premier League winners level, I still think they're obviously going to compete. They're brilliant based upon kind of the years that have gone by. But I do think there is weaknesses in their squad that they need to fill before kind of the transfer window closes.
Interesting. Well, listen, before I let you go, Kenny, obviously it was 44 years a couple of weeks ago since you signed for Liverpool, and I've got something to show you. I don't know whether you've seen this recently, but can you see that now?
Yes, that was my first day's training.
His new teammates for the first time, when even the respect which a record-breaking £440,000 fee brings didn't shelter him from his colleagues' wit. So Dalglish has left one club with strong European traditions to try and help another.
You and England used to have the same wig on.
The only reason I was wanting to move is for the sake of ambition, and as you say, I'm delighted to join Liverpool and just hope that get a lot of success here.
And what about the biggest differences that you might find? There seems in Scotland to be that little gap after Glasgow.
Do you remember about that day, Kenny? Was that the first day of training?
Whereas down here there are 22 good teams in the first division, aren't there?
First day of training.
I mean, I've never done experience of the English first division.
Very happy, aren't you? Look.
I don't think I'll be able to pass judgment.
Very happy, look at that.
Every time Rangers or Celtic played the team, it was like a cup final for our side. So really it was, although it might not have been a high standard.
In as much that the tax would have only, the money would have gone to the government, and I'm like any other professional manager. Players is what it's all about, and the money was there available from Kevin. No one said anything when they stole well, they didn't steal him, they paid for him, but they took him away. There was no cry from this side of the country like about them taking our player. So that money was available, and the board instructed me to try and get the best, and this is what I think in Kenny I've got to get the best. I'm hoping so anyway. They talk about this, he can do that, he can go both ways, and he can finish, he can read the game, and this all adds up to good players, and I like good players in my side, and I think the more good players you get, the better chance you have of winning something.
And yet another start to the season, Bob, opens at Wembley in the Charity Shield.
I like to get in the Charity Shields and that, but the results are not of importance as long as we perform and entertain and that. But the result of the Charity Shield means nothing to me as long as someone would say, well, you'll be in it next year, and then you know what you've got then.
Brilliant. Well, how does that make you feel looking back at that footage?
I didn't recognise myself. I didn't realise it. No, I changed that much, Gav. You know what I mean? Shorter hair and a bit. I think that must have been when I was 10 stone 12.
Brilliant memories, though. You know, with starting training and Bob Paisley and all those guys there, it must have been incredible times.
Aye, and I think I caused a bit of a stir because we were playing five-a-sides and Tommy Smith came into tackle us and I nutmegged him. And I could hear the rest of the boys going, uh-oh.
But you never did that again.
I would have if I got the opportunity.
Oh, brilliant. Boys, thanks very much for your time.
All right.
Appreciate it. And
yeah, thanks, Gav, and congratulations on the medal.
Cheers.
Well deserved, mate. Well deserved, mate. Well deserved. Really proud of you, mate.
Yeah, it's a present from my daughter, by the way. So you know.
Yeah, no, still, yeah. Don't make me feel bad. I don't have feelings.
She must have thought it was. Here, is it chocolate, Gavin? Is it a chocolate one you can eat?
It's not chocolate, no.
No.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Job. Premier League winner. There you go.
I'll need to run. I'm on the tee.
All right. Well, listen. See you later.
Gavin, thanks very much. Pedro.
Bye.
Bye.